layout itself looks completely overwhelming when you look at a board. But when you start to understand what those things do,
right?
Then it doesn't look like it has nearly as many connections as it has. Literally, the top looks like the back of a thing. Oh, hi there, welcome. All over voiceover with Kiff VH. Today's our 15th episode, and being our 15th episode, and also the closest holiday is actually Valentine's Day. So I thought it'd be cool to bring in in all honesty, one of the finest actors I know. And I married her. So it's my pleasure to introduce my wife, Cheri Lynne.
Come on Kiff shows.
Yeah, that's right. Cheri Lynne VandenHeuvel.
I marry my guests.
I marry my guests. Well, I marry them first and then bring them in.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's the proper order. That's the church-like.
That's the proper way to do it. No premarital guesting. Listen, I was raised in the church. I'm a covenant youth.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about this board, and the boards are fascinating because there's so many controls. You have slideys. What did you call them?
Slideys and turnies, and then you stickmans.
Yeah.
And the stickmans.
The plugs.
The plugs. Yeah.
So those are 1/4-inch jacks for headphones, and then XLRs. But it's like the back of a receiver.
It's like just sitting down here, like, reminded me of like being in front of a reel-to-reel back at Michigan State University and just going, oh, look, we didn't have anything. It felt like 1980 something because it was
1980 something.
Yeah.
You got in front of equipment when you were at State?
Yeah, they had a full-on thing.
Because you were broadcasting.
I was a journalist major there. And all of everybody was really shy. They're all writers.
Huh.
And everybody was like, well, you have the best radio voice. So I would read everybody's copy and cut the tape. You used to cut the tape and then use
tape to splice them together.
To splice them together, which seems like, I don't know, it just seems like the olden days.
It was. That was how everything was done. And then the digital changed everything. But even even working with VHS decks when I was editing in college, I didn't have to manually cut anything, but you would cut tape.
We would cut tape and then tape it together with cellophane tape, regular old tape, which seems like the olden days because it was the olden days. Yeah. And I want to say, you kids have it so good. What do you mean you can't cut your own demo? I had to.
Well, still use that word too, in terms of cutting.
Cut your own demo, right? Oy vey.
Yeah, cutting tapes and all that stuff. Yeah. So you focused on journalism in State.
Yeah.
But you were also an athlete there.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's how I was there. That's how my butt was there as far as money goes.
Yeah.
I will try not to swear.
That's all right. It's just our daughter who's listening, who I'm concerned about. But
I know, but she's like, Mommy. So I'm censoring myself as I go. But yeah, I was there on track scholarship. And I was a journalism major and broadcast journalism because that's kind of where everybody's like, well, that's the money is. And you kind of have a face for it and the that sort of thing. Because it was Detroit. I mean, it was in Lansing, but associated with and news. You could be a celebrity.
Yeah.
Doing the news and either on the radio or, on television.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was, you could have an entire career. And we know.
We know our newscasters,
right,
Bill Bonds, and
Mort Krim,
and
all the ladies whose names just flew out of
Carolyn
my head.
Clifford,
Carolyn Clifford,
who we upset. Yeah. We did it. I think in Second City.
Yeah. Well,
but what do you do?
What do you do? But yeah, so that was the track, I think, in the beginning, and in broadcast in particular, just because it's a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more. The writing led to a little bit more storytelling just because it's the writing for journalism, for broadcast journalism is a little bit more storytelling because you're getting on the TV or on the radio and you're telling a story as opposed to reading it, which is just a little different. And not necessarily it's more dramatic, but if you listen to copy and then read copy, you'll see that it should be different. I don't know now because of the internet.
Yeah.
Because internet. But if you look because we would, in class and look at different kinds of copy and what's different about it, and even the amount of words that you're going to use when you're talking, as opposed to when someone has to read it down, as opposed to when you're going to read it in a column.
Yeah.
So you leave out more details. You got to be a little bit more picturesque. Everything.
So it makes your words more important.
Yes, you have to edit as you go when you're doing that kind of work. You have to edit as you go. You don't have time in radio. Well, we didn't have time. You just don't have the time. You don't have a copy editor who's going to be like, okay, it has to fit in this space. Literally has to fit in this space. Because back in the day when we read newspapers, it had to fit in that space.
Yeah. And
so they would say, no, cut this out. And then that way the words physically will fit on the paper in that space. But on the air, it has to get out in 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, 5 seconds, depending on the story. It's just a quick little thing about a dog. Or, we all did stories about this miniature horse that someone brought in. I don't think, did I ever tell you that story?
No, you never told me any of it.
We had a class where we could like talk about anything, or it was like, these are life stories. So I was there on my track scholarship. So I was like, of course, that's what I'm going to do, is like, we're going to talk about my crazy life trying to balance, track and school and being on a bus and how you get your homework done.
Yeah.
But one of the people in the class had a miniature horse. And they was like, asked the professor, can I bring my miniature horse in class? And the professor was like, sure, I don't think there's any laws against it. And then if there are, they will be broken. As the horse is there, then we'll know no more horses can come to class. So we were all just kind of like, there's a horse in class. And it was a full-on miniature horse in class. So we got nothing done.
Yeah.
And, all about her life, raising miniature horses, which she does in Michigan, and she's going to school and getting her journalism degree. And then we all had to write different kinds of stories about the mini horse. So it would just be like, if you're going to write it for a magazine, it's going to be a little longer, more in depth. You need a photographer. If you newspaper, it's going to be in the lifestyle section. You still need a photographer to, and then like we would pick which ones we would have to do. But like if you're going to do like a TV piece about it, it would just have to be, you need a cameraman, but it would have to be super short and super, like, just a little bit more entertaining.
I see.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But the different formats dictate how you approach the same story and the same content, but there's specific limitations within that.
Right. And looking
That's
at,
fascinating.
Yeah, I know. You don't think about that. And, unless you're in the business of doing that, and, I guess it speaks to becoming an actor later on. After that I was like, I'm gonna write mine for the
right.
I'm gonna write mine for the TV or for the radio.
Well, have that awareness of that pattern that you need to be able to mimic. It makes things make more sense in terms of the difference, like with voiceover, the difference between a radio piece versus a TV piece versus industrial, and the limitations that come inherently that no one's going to tell you.
Nope. No one's ever going to tell you that. No one's going to say, here's the difference between commercial copy and here's the difference between this industrial copy where you're, reading about a disease that they're trying to find a cure for in a convention center, and they're going to play your voice over whatever thing,
And the difference, in particular, next to those two things, because both of us, when we were in Detroit coming up and doing this sort of stuff, there was enough overlap between industrial copy that was written like advertisement.
Right.
Because a lot of times industrial videos will live in that space of educating the workforce along with a celebration of our new innovation here at Henry Ford Hospital. The latest X-ray, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to be able to bring those skills to bear in each of those contexts.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. You have to, and it's weird thinking about it, because then you go, oh, this is stuff that I all know, sort of inherently.
Yes.
From experience
and from just watching 40 some odd years of television.
Yeah.
And listening to the radio.
Yeah. And then what do those guys sound like as opposed to you're standing in the studio, you're recording copy, like doing this a couple of times back in Michigan, where it's just going to go to a PowerPoint presentation where and that you in one way you're talking to a convention center or a conference hall as opposed to Tuffy, where you're just sort of doing.
We are know-how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's different, where you have to have that awareness and how inherent it becomes in sort of second nature, and then you forget. And then when you go to explain to somebody what it is, you're like,
Now, when you were at State, did you have any acting experience prior to that, or when you went into the broadcasting side of things, or not so much?
No, and because I think about the conversations that we have a lot of it was just imitation.
Mm.
I don't know if any other state or city is like Detroit in the sense that and I've heard this from people, like they'll say, if you want to go and really get your chops in as a newscaster, go to Detroit. Like we said, we listened to the news. We knew who the newscasters were on the radio. We knew who the newscasters were on television. They were celebrities.
Yeah.
And I think going into journalism, I was just doing my imitations of Mort Krim or whoever, I'm listening to this. What is the guy? Dick Burton.
Yeah.
You're just doing your impression or whatever you think it sounds like. And that's kind of that's how they talk. That's how I learned at Second City, was just looking at the Turco videos and saying, they said, do it like that. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But you're learning from the best.
You're learning from Tina Fey and
right.
Scott Adsit
right.
and Carell and Colbert and Wazowski, and watching those guys do their thing.
Yeah.
And learning the moves that they're making in the context of those sketches.
Right. And then, Richie Goteri, he said, you are learning their timing right now. You are getting their timing into your body by memorizing it, how they do it, and then doing it. And you're like, that is a wonderful way to look at it. Yeah. And I highly recommend that for just about anything. Like sitting in the car. I don't know if you do it, I'll do it in the car, and it irritates Ilsa of like talking along to not news, but commercials and stuff.
Oh,
just sort of get the rhythm of it.
Yeah. I repeat so much all the time. I would do, when I was learning how to ear prompt, I would do that.
Yeah.
I would try to ear prompt, for those of you who don't know what ear prompting is, you put a tiny earpiece in your ear, and then you repeat what you hear about 3 beats behind what you're hearing. But doing Fameless, that's kind of what you're doing too. Like, I'm so grateful for that ear prompting experience. I've been doing some work on the show called Fameless, where Kevin Healy, our director, is in my ear telling me exactly what to say in response to, different marks and stuff.
Yeah.
So you really have to have an awareness of what's being said, and then shut off the critical part of your mind as you listen and process, but just repeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And trust that it's coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And they, they're telling you the right thing to do, right thing to do.
Yeah.
Even when it's horribly, horribly wrong.
Right. But Richie's right. You're learning your timing from these people, and that imprints the timing on how you turn a joke around.
Yeah. It imprints the timing on a joke, on on pace, and on character. The characters have rhythms, they have speeds, the guy who reads, because I got hired for a lot of hospital stuff back home. Yeah. And there's a certain sort of, hey, you know what? Everything's okay. You have cancer, but, but we're going to help you out. There's sort of this easy, comfortable, maternal, pace.
What is that? I mean, in terms of, like you say, I was hired for a lot of hospitals.
Yeah.
And, you've got like a more you have a warmer, deeper tone in your voice, and you can sound maternal even before you had a child.
Right.
You know, and I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, people used to say, Cheri, you're never going to get married. Or something like that, right?
You're never going to get married and you're never going to have children.
Right. But that's how they cast you in particular in your VO stuff when you were there. What is it? Is it pattern recognition? Do you think is that what was making the impact? Or I don't know if you've ever thought about it. Like, I just get called in for that. Like, for me, it's cops.
Right. I don't know. I think a lot of it. I think a lot of it is African American in a way. I think there is something about that.
There's a cultural awareness.
Yeah. That we do have these sort of iconic touchstones, and that they know, the advertisers and the marketing people know that this is a particular thing that people will listen to when it comes to their health, or when it comes to people giving them advice. You know, in the Second City, the magical black person that Antoine and Claudia did. That you know, it's funny because it's true. You know, in a weird way of like, oh, they have such great advice, or we'll listen to them do anything, and it's in our movies and stuff. But I think it's something that they use, you know, and I think that might be part of it. And just tone of voice. Yeah. I'm slow, so I think that's
slow meaning
no.
Slow.
I mean pace.
Yeah, I thought you meant pace. I'm slow. I'm slower than most people.
Slower than most people.
You do. Your pace
but I do know what
deliberate.
love is. What?
Yeah. your pace is more deliberate.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's natural. I mean, because I think in grad school, you have to do these crazy exercises where you're doing, you know, all these tongue twisters and learning how to speed up your pace. And that was my thing, was learning how to pick up my pace and not, you know, what did I say? It's on the wall at Second City, you know, not to hold my pause until my water breaks, you know.
Yeah. Right.
Then I'm going to put a pregnant pause here for everyone to just think about what I just said.
Well, let me track timeline. So you go to state and you left state.
Yes.
And then you took some time and went to, how'd you find yourself making that transition from broadcast journalism and track into performance?
Well, we don't have any margaritas. This is a margarita conversation. No.
Okay.
No, Dr. No, it was like I think it was a soul searching sort of a thing. And my mom was actually instrumental in that, because she was like, you're not going to follow the Grateful Dead around the country.
Right.
You know, that's not going to help you. What's going to help you is that you get back into the thick of it and see what strikes your fancy. She's like, go over to Henry Ford Community College and take 4 classes, random. Nothing to do with what I was doing at state. Nothing at all. I took a psych class. I took some crazy, it was an amazing class of, because there's a very large, Arab, Middle Eastern population in Detroit. So I took this really great, Middle Eastern studies, and I had this fabulous teacher, and we just talked about a bunch of stuff that I didn't know anything about. And then I took an acting class, and I took just a regular, a math class or something like it, because I knew that later on that would be something that I would need. So it's I'll take one need class.
Okay.
And I loved every single one of them. And in the acting class, the director was like, I'm doing this show. Would you want to be in it? And I had to be, and I knew so little about it that I was like, show? What is that? You know what I'm saying? You're doing a show, and I'm thinking Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. You know, I don't know. I didn't know. I had no idea. And she's like, okay, I'm going to back up. Doing a play. Remember that time we studied plays in class? I'm like, yes. Doing a play. And it was called Kennedy's Children. and it was a monologue play, and I played a woman who was obsessed with the Kennedys, and everybody was, it was like a 60s thing. Everybody had something. There was a Vietnam guy. There was a girl who was obsessed with Marilyn Monroe, and yeah, and then I did that play, and then I was like, I think I like this, but I don't know if I want to do this for a living. So I was like, but I kind of like, well, I like literature, I like storytelling. How about I be a librarian? I know, it's so stupid. You'll be a librarian because then I'll be surrounded by stories. So stupid. Not that librarians are stupid.
Librarians are very important. They serve a very important function.
And
but as a career path, it just didn't seem like once you master the Dewey Decimal System, is it really just fine management?
It's where we live in Santa Monica, it's like fine management and homeless management. But,
yeah.
And I feel bad for those cats sometimes in there. I just figured that would be the natural progression, is like, I want to be kind of writer, kind of story, kind of, I still like that part of it. And I really enjoyed being in the play. I don't know what I was thinking. I was 20. Who knows?
Who knows what you're thinking when you're 20?
You're not thinking anything except,
yeah.
And, I ended up I went to two different schools, and I ended up signing up at U of D, and I ended up calling my mom and said, "Ma, I think I'm an actor." Because I auditioned for the program with my monologue that I did in the show before.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I called my mom and said, "Ma, I think I'm an actor," and then that was that. That was that. Yeah, and I had tried. I tried. I mean, I got all the literature because I would have had gone. I would have to go to get an English major or get some kind of major, and then go on to get my MLS.
To pursue the librarian degree.
You have to have a master's. There's no bachelor's in it. You have to have a master's.
I see.
So, yeah. So that's all that.
Well, I didn't mean to throw so much shade on librarian. So, well, you told me something interesting a while ago, that in particular, that one of your superpowers is your ability to learn how to do things.
Yes.
That you are an outstanding student in that way. So when you set your mind to something,
it's pretty much done.
So you go to you go to U of D, University of Detroit Mercy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And just soak it in.
Yep.
And
yep. I read everything that could be read. Uta Hagen, oh my God, all the names are flying out of my head. Stanislavski, Meisner, all of them, stack of them, owned it. Going into my teacher's office, getting their books, reading them, because you could check out of our professors' offices. I read Greek tragedies because they were there in Arthur's office. You just read plays and read plays and read plays, and I just read it all.
Who was the difference maker for you there that really helped things lock in? Was it the volume you were reading and taking in, or was there an instructor or a show?
It was watching.
Huh.
We had the opportunity to work with either backstage and in front of stage of people who worked in the professional theater in the city. So all of our professors still worked. They all did shows around town, and they did, like David and Arthur did voiceover in town. So our mentors were people who worked.
Yeah.
They weren't just and this is not throwing shade on professors who don't work, but this is, they worked in the business and they taught.
Yeah.
And they would bring in working professionals, like Mary Bremer and Jennifer Jones and Council Cargill, all these local Detroit actors who were professionals and who are amazing actors.
Yeah.
And I would just watch. You just watch. You shut your mouth. You don't give notes. You don't criticize. You watch the masters work. You just watch them. And I think that in itself made the difference. And just taking in what they were doing. And they made it look so easy. Mm. And we said this earlier today. It's like you have to assess your skill level.
Yes.
And you have to be extremely honest with yourself, and don't be pie in the sky and helicopter mom with yourself about your skill level. Mm. Know your skill level. Are you green? Or are you master? Are you apprentice? Are you Padawan? If we want to go there,
Sure.
Right. But are you, have you done the trials yet?
Right. Have the council approved?
Have the council approved you? You have to sit down and if you don't know how to assess your skills, go to somebody and have them assess your skills, and they'll say, yes, you are a Padawan. You are not ready for the trials yet.
Right.
And don't be all Anakin about it. But he knows what I'm talking about. Don't act like you don't know.
Right.
And go back and train some more. You're not ready for the trials because everybody see what happens.
Yeah, that's right.
It's then
quick and easy, dark side of the force, and before you know it, there you are, losing a hand.
Grandson, dark side. That's how far it reaches.
That's how deep it goes.
So there you go. But yeah, you have to assess your skill level and then and respect your own skill level no matter where it is. Go, you know what? I'm green, but it's wonderful being green. No pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you get to learn. And what better place there is to be is to learn, is to take in all these information from masters.
Yeah.
From watching these people make it look so easy. It makes you shut up and listen and work and watch them work. And they're not sitting around with sunglasses on someplace on a beach. They are working. They're learning lines.
Right.
They're deepening their character. They're there, when you're taping out the stage for something, walking, they're blocking,
Mm-hmm.
And it's all that little stuff I think added up over the years of just going, no, work is how you do it. There's no magic bullet. You got to work. You got to work and you got to listen and you got to know your skill level so you know where you're going. I think that's, and not be scared or ashamed or anything,
You have to be patient with yourself.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, you have to be extremely patient you have to love yourself and be more, and you have to be the kindest person in the room to yourself. No one else is going to. If someone else does that for you, great, but don't rely on other people to do that for you.
Yeah.
Be the kindest person in the room to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't go, why don't I know that? Or why didn't I get that? Or so-and-so auditioned for that. Yeah, they did. Yeah, that happens. Yeah, whatever. But just be kind to yourself. Don't helicopter mom yourself, which is a term that it's in my head right now. But don't blow smoke up your own.
That's what you mean by helicopter momming yourself?
Yeah. Okay. And I've been around actors and all where they'll helicopter mom them. Well, if this was wrong and the costume's not right, or the director is just not giving me anything to work with, or where do I go from here? I don't know where I'm supposed to go. You're supposed to tell me. It's like,
yeah.
You can't do that either.
Yeah.
You can't be that kind to yourself.
Right. You gotta own what you're doing right or wrong.
Right.
And if you're not either, it's not even about booking. It's like if you're just not ringing true in whatever it is you're doing, whether it's a 15-second bumper for a show and it feels forced, it.
Right.
And you can't blame equipment or whatever. You can blame equipment if your stuff is tight.
Yes. That's the only way you can do it. But if it's not right, it's not right.
Right.
And if you're not right for the thing, and you're not right for it. Then you're not right for it.
There's other things you could be right for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can't blame the equipment. You go, the microphone's not this. I usually use a so-and-so.
Yeah.
Like, no, dude.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
I just listened to, it was East West Body Shop. It's George Whittam's podcast, and they had a microphone shootout that Juan Carlos Bagnall was on and a few other guys. And they had, the bit was George had, I want to say 10 microphones, and they recorded the same piece of copy with the same settings on all 10 microphones.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. And then you could hear the subtle differences. At least the subtle differences as I observed them played through Bluetooth through my car speaker. So again, and George made the wave file downloadable so you can listen to each of them. And then it calls out all of them. And then there's the 416 and there was a Neumann and there was all these different things. And it's never the equipment.
No. I mean, it's like that made me think of, like you said in the tweet that I'm the reason that you have a voiceover career. And I remember whenever I read that, I'm always like,
to make you feel uncomfortable. You're like,
no, I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Well, I'll go ahead. You had other.
Well, it was just that the idea of equipment, and because we ended up recording at level 2.
Yeah.
But you had this is going to sound so hippie, but you had the equipment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you have the equipment, it doesn't matter what it doesn't. You know, if you could find a good microphone, you know, find someone maybe to direct you and to cut it so that it sounds good and professional and clean and whatever.
But that can't be the thing that's stopping you. You got to make sure that your equipment is in place first, meaning your skill level, your ability to analyze text, the ability to have range in terms of what you can do.
Yeah.
And I credit you for that I didn't have a path to it. I mean, I had produced, I literally mean like a demo.
You guys can't see the looks that I'm giving.
She's giving me a bunch of different looks. I completely skipped over graduate school. We don't need to go full on timeline, but you did graduate school and stuff. And then we met at Second City in Detroit. And, but like you taught me about how to make a audio demo based on what you guys did in graduate school.
Yeah.
It was pull copy out of magazines.
We pull copy out of magazines. And it was, a week long session where we got in front of the microphone that Jeff Dreisbach had. And this was back before we could do that, so it was just his microphone and a recorder. We record ourselves, listen to it and go, what does it sound like? What are we doing? Let's analyze some copy. And, listening to our classmates go, oh, you could do this, or you should do this, or you should do that,
Mm-hmm.
And then getting magazines. We just got magazines and just read copy and then made our demos from that. And we worked with the sound department guys and that were there, and they helped us put together our CDs.
CDs, that's right.
They burned our compact discs.
I was shepherding those compact. I remember after producing the reel with Mark at level 2, printing cassettes and then moving them around town and bringing them to different agencies and stuff.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't just the mechanics of that. It was the encouragement. I remember we were going up to Detroit and you had said to me, I was expressing doubt. I was doing, it was Space for Changing Families. It was that show. It was a kid's show. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, if this is the right move, if I'm practical or whatever. And you were like, I don't care if you want to go be a garbage collector.
Mm-hmm.
I'll love you just the same. Go do it. I don't care. You do what you feel like doing.
Yeah. I'm like, you don't have to do this. It's not an easy business. You do not have to do it. No one's forcing you to. And at the end of the day, no one's going to come knocking on your door and go, I'm so ashamed of you for not pursuing your dream as being an actor. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
People are going to go on with their lives and they're going to be concerned with you.
Yeah.
So you have to get up in the morning and decide, do you really want to do this? And if you do, here are some things you can do to make it happen. You're going to have to do these things. No one's going to come knock on your door and give you work. You're going to have to go out and do these things and submit and call and whatever. But here's how you can do it. Other than that, I don't really study anything other than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you don't want to do it, you don't do it. Why? I don't understand. I didn't understand what you were complaining about.
It was, it was, I think I was giving voice to whatever sort of self-doubt, judgment, whatever I was feeling, and learning how to manage that.
Learning how to manage that is very, very important.
Yeah.
In the way that you have to be in the good way, you have to be your own cheerleader. in that way, and learn how to take care of yourself in that way. Because this business is not easy, and you are going to run up against a lot of roadblocks and times, and you're gonna have to do gigs you don't want to do, and you have to. Someone's going to get a gig that you really want, and you're going to be doing another gig, and then this gig comes up while you were doing that gig. And you're like, "Are you kidding me?" Yeah. But you just got to relax and go, it'll all work out in the end. And if you get twisted up about it, then you're spending your time getting twisted up, and you're not appreciating who you are, where you are, and what you're doing, which is the most important thing you can do in your acting. If you're getting twisted up, then it's going to affect everything that you do. Ted used to say, or Ted, he probably still says it, he's still teaching, he's not dead. But Ted said that all actors should be the healthiest people on the planet because you are attempting to become masters at making choices that involve yourself. So you should be able to choose things for yourself that are healthy. And, and if you are not doing that, eventually it'll come back on you, So I don't know, it's all hippie.
It's
hippie actor madness.
Yeah, but it's again, pattern recognition. It's the nature of what we do. And we're also the ones who carry that message and express it. It's in a way, it's our job culturally to deliver that message. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like we were saying in the car on the way over here. We had a conversation about Lord Business from the Lego movie. And that, you don't want to be like Lord Business. But then you realize that Warner Brothers, the company, is responsible for introducing us to the character and to the emotional content of Lord Business. And that idea is reflected by this monolith. And you could look at it from a jaded perspective and be like, man, it's all just friggin' Lord Business, man. And they're just telling you to try to keep you down. Or they can tell you you can't stop the truth from getting out. It seeps out into things. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talk about that with ketchup bottles. We talked about all the white ketchup bottles last night in the show.
Why are all the ketchup bottles white?
And it's because it's deep.
Why? It's deep. It's like when I think of all the different mediums that an actor works in, and voiceover being its own. I wouldn't say it's a hardest challenge because there are other harder ones. Yeah. Puppetry being the one that I'm working on right now. It's its own puppetry, improv, which is its own form of madness. Yeah, a madness of rewiring your brain. But I think in rewiring your brain in voice work is the next level below puppetry as far as rewiring, so that the wiring in a way is perfect, because you cannot rely on anything else. So if you do get twisted up about this thing that happened earlier today, or something your mama said, or your husband didn't do what he was supposed to do and you wanted, and your wife bought a brand new car and didn't tell you. Well, I don't know why she would do that, but but I've discovered, like, working in the different mediums, you can hide a lot more when your physical body is present. You can put things places that nobody can see them. This is going to sound like hippie madness.
Don't apologize for hippie madness.
But you can put things, and you can use your face. Your body is a tool, and you can use it to do things that will help all of that. And I find behind the microphone is one of the most vulnerable things that you can do. And then the next one above that I've discovered is puppets. Puppets,
that's really,
and voice.
That's an amazing discovery that's the case. Yeah. I agree with you. I think the mic somehow captures everything. It's the purest, most truthful, explore. It's almost like a probe to your soul in a way. Yeah. That it absolutely captures all those things. You cannot hide from it.
No.
And if you're afraid of it, it reads. And people will look at themselves on camera and be like, oh, well, I hate how I look on camera. But they hear themselves on their microphone and go, I don't know that I sounded like that.
Yeah, and they go, and I know I do too. I'll go completely insane. Completely like, oh my God. But I'm actually hearing the truth of myself. And it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
Neither good nor bad. It's extraordinary. And we had this discussion recently about, we like this voiceover performance in this cartoon. Oh, we didn't care for this one. And I was thinking about that earlier. I was like, why is that? I was like, and you said it. Oh, so-and-so uses his face a lot.
Uh-huh.
So this guy or this lady or whatever, she uses her face a lot when she acts.
And that's where her funny lies.
And doesn't know how to translate it into her voice. And that's what you're hearing, how extraordinarily truthful it is when you hear yourself back and go, you know what? I know. I know I'm funnier than that, what I just heard. Okay. Gage, you in there messing around with these tools, making me not seem funny. I'm going to come up out this door. Gage is in there like, no, it's on. You're talking.
Tell me about there was a thought and then I started laughing. I forgot what it was. But I agree. No, it was off of that, with the mask work that I was messing around when I was directing touring company at Second City with Lecoq training. And I brought in neutral masks to my casts. And it's such a fascinating, powerful tool to reveal how much you're actually emoting past that mask and how much you're relying on your face to get your laughs. Yep. And I think the mic is a neutral mask.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Mind blown.
Sorry, the roof just blew off of here and there's 2 floors of like looking down going, what's happening? As God's light is shining into this space.
But yeah, the
mic is a neutral mask.
The mic is a neutral mask.
Oh my God.
In the same way that you put that white mask on your face and you realize that your body has been a bowl of spaghetti for years and you didn't even know it, that you weren't even making choices with your body or you're making the same choice over and over again. I think I'd be horrified to put on a neutral mask right now. You know, like, oh my God, what is my body doing? But in the same way, I think with the microphone, it takes everything away. Yeah. And then over the past year, it's been, I put a puppet on my hand.
How did you get this opportunity, by the way? Let me come back to that. I'm sorry to interrupt. You put a puppet on your hand.
I put a puppet on my hand, and I realized how much of my funny lived in all other kinds of places other than where I thought I could put them. Where you have to rewire your brain to live in your arm and your hand, and then you have to rewire your thinking to live through it, and then there's the whole monitor thing, which is a whole nother thing.
Yeah. And
then you have to, because then that means if you're rewiring, you have to find the source. You have to find the green wire and the red wire, and you have to go, well, where's the red wire? Oh, it's been wired into me making funny faces for 5 years. Serious? That's what I've been doing? Yes. It's been wired into me swearing, right. But it's, you figure it out in your body. And that was the most difficult thing was it's been wired into eye contact with my partner and sort of I'm an extremely physical performer. So it's been my funny's been wired into my body doing wide, funny things.
Yeah.
And I couldn't rely on that either. So it's the yellow wire. You pull out all those wires and then you're not funny. You're not even a good actor, because all the wires are pulled out and then you're plugging them in. And then in your voice too, of like making very specific character choices. And it's the one thing that I struggled with was making all of my characters sound different because I realized they were all sounding the same. Because my funny was all coming from one place.
What choices are you making to help you going back to the notion of choice to get to just from a standing back place of like, cause I totally tracking with you in terms of the wire metaphor that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And I know that it is a physical rewiring of yourself.
Physical rewiring, yeah.
But what choices are you making that help you get the range that I see you building with your puppet work?
Actually, it's just technical of listening to my voice and then going, you know what? I'm going to go a couple of steps up. I'm going to even go higher than that.
And pitch
I'm going to say I'm going to go, and then maybe I'll slow it down and see what happens. And maybe I'll speed it up, and then we'll go all the way down and see what happens here. I mean, what if she talks really fast, but it's finding the high and then the low, and then maybe experimenting with something wider.
Pulling out the side of your mouth a little bit, and the different sides of the mouth have got different sounds.
Things, different sounds come out of different sounds in your mouth. And then, sometimes you want to get a little smaller. You want to see what's going on. Who's this guy? What does he do?
Right.
For some reason, he has an accent. I don't know why. Right. Yeah. But then it was sheerly technical. And I'll praise hands to Patrick Bristow of the Groundlings of pointing that out, of making extremely specific physical choices along with an emotional choice, and then just running with it and not judging yourself. Just going with it and see what happens. Yeah. And no one's going to die from this. But I realized that I was playing so close to myself all the time. All
your
the time.
Improvisation and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, because at Second City, it wasn't a priority, but at the Groundlings training was a completely different training.
The only improv game that we play that you don't play close to yourself is Freeze.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I used to love that game, and now I hate playing it because I feel like because it's the push to get the funny out straight out the gate, but it's also asking you to stretch yourself and go to where it's not comfortable and push yourself into those places and find new characters. And stretching your range it's like going to yoga. It's like finding those places where you're stiff.
Yeah, it is. It really is. And that's a really great metaphor because you get to, they say in yoga to ride your edge, always ride your edge. And I realized the puppetry helped me, my voice work in the sense of, it let me know how little I was riding my edge.
Interesting. And
that I was so close to comfort all the time. And that you just have to go to the outside of what you feel is comfortable and then stay there. Don't pull back. Don't go farther. Stay there. And just stay there. And just stay there and see what happens. And then and it's weird, stuff will come up. You go, you know what? And this is going to, a hippie psychobabble. Mm-hmm. I'm prefacing this. But and this is from studying voice work in grad school. Your voice is very intimate. You have been judged on things that you've said. You've said things to people in ways and they've snapped back at you, or that girl didn't say yes to your question about a date or something. And your body takes that in and I don't think we remember specifically what we sounded like or whatever, but we'll shy away from different ways that haven't given us results.
Yeah.
And so we'll stay in one place because we know this is the result place. This is the result place. And so you'll never go to that other place. And then when you go and you ride your edge where there are no results, you discover why. You can discover why there's an emotional memory attached to that place. That's uncomfortable for me. That reminds me of this person. Oh, I didn't want to be like that person. Oh, that person sounds like so-and-so and I don't like him. Yeah. It's very, very intimate, which is why I say all the time, is particularly with your voice, being, studying voice in grad school, that you have to be kind to yourself when it comes to your voice. It is very, very intimate. And it is the first thing that you did. You cried. That was the very first thing that you did. That was your first action as a person besides pooping.
Yeah. You cry before you poop.
You cry before you poop. So know that when you get in there and start criticizing yourself about your voice.
Yeah.
You know, that this is how intimate this thing is. The first thing you're able to do was hear your parents' voice. And the first thing you were able to respond to was your parents' voice. So know that this has been going on long before you became conscious and or aware of it.
Yeah.
So I'm real hippy-dippy about your voice work and in particular who you're training with and you know, don't ride up on people who are that if you are sensitive, you should appreciate that and respect that and know and pick your trainers and pick who you're going to work with in a way how you would pick a psychiatrist, you know, because this person is dealing with something that's very intimate.
Yeah.
And if you have someone who's just going to come in and just sort of poke holes in it or whatever, or if you do like a little rough work, some people like a little rough.
You know, it's interesting. I remember having an acting teacher during my professional life after booking things who pushed me to an uncomfortable place and made me really question and said some things, even though while the training was good, I felt like I took a hit in my confidence about what I was doing. Yeah. Like, you're good, but you could be great. And at that point, it was I began judging myself in a different way where I went, you know, I approached things very, very straight on.
Right.
And figure it out. And if I trust the people involved that if I'm not right for something, they won't cast me.
Right. Yeah. That's it. It's that simple.
So the idea of I'm totally down for sharpening my edge and all that other kind of stuff. But I've also been able to do really powerful emotional work prior to that experience and not have to feel like I wasn't enough in some way or another.
Right. You only you know best about you. And this is something Lewis would say while we were working, in particular with clients. If something feels like you don't want to do this, don't do it. This is not a psychiatrist's office. Nobody in here is trained to deal with whatever. Yeah. Even if it's just, you know what, that's effing with my confidence. Yeah. You need to slow your roll. Yeah. You know, you are well within your rights to say that. Mm-hmm. You know, you may want to put it a little less.
A little less delicately.
But you're perfectly capable of saying, you know what, this is a little bit too much for me right now. And that way you are establishing your boundaries and protecting your boundaries and not allowing someone to walk all over your voice. Yeah. And it's too intimate. It's too precious. Your confidence is no, I think our confidence has that sort of willow-like thing of, you know, it can take a lot, but sometimes
some people try to stress it.
They try to stress it too hard and they're bending it and bending it. And you're like, hey. That
is not your responsibility or your within your right.
Right.
To do that to me.
Exactly. And you want to suss that out though with riding your edge and just being comfortable with riding your edge. Yeah. When it comes to making choices, go, you know, if it is a place where you don't usually play. Yeah. But make sure, we were talking about this yesterday about having a safe place. Yes. To play. Yes. Because the longer you play in a place, the more comfortable you get. Yep. There, and then
you find all the glass in the sand and pull it out so you don't cut yourself.
Yeah. And then you can take it into the studio. You can take it into a character that you find that you're auditioning for animation wise and get results from it. But if you do that right away, I think that's when you're like, oh, I tried that, and then I tried it in this audition, and I didn't get that, so blah, I'm not gonna do it anymore. So that doesn't work. So that doesn't work. Right. Like, no. Right. No, that's not how that works. Right. Sorry.
Well, listen, it's been so friggin' awesome to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Because, well, I mean, I feel like we talked about exactly the stuff I hoped we would talk about too, which is, I think, beyond process. And it is process
It is process. It's all process. I'm always like, I don't know what I'm going to say. I know what I'm going to say. I know what I'm thinking. I know it's all in my head in one big piece. And getting it out, I think, is hard because like a lot of it is just experience that you're trying to explain.
Yeah.
It's the difference between TV copy and commercial copy that you just are accustomed to. And then you're trying to explain or character development or everything. And so I think it gets a little, I know I'm listening to myself going, what are you talking about? You're drunk.
People can find you on Twitter at
Klingon Girl.
At Klingon Girl.
Yes.
Why Klingon Girl?
Because it's still my goal. This is what people are in Hollywood for very specific reasons. Kiff is here to play a cop on television.
Yeah.
And then some.
And then some.
Yeah.
Because I've done it.
You've done that.
I've done it a couple times.
Yeah.
And I play a cop in a Batman movie.
So there's that.
So now I gotta
pick a new one.
reestablish my goals.
Yeah, you gotta pick a new one. And mine was it was twofold. It used to be I want to be on a soap opera. And I need to be a Klingon in a Star Trek movie. But soap operas aren't doing so well anymore.
Yeah.
But there's different kinds of soap operas. So that one's become like number 2. But the number 1 goal, that's my retirement goal. I will retire after I play a Klingon.
All right. Well, then I hope
Trek,
that you play an old Klingon so that you can keep working and have a ton of fun. And what do you have coming up? You've got.
I will be going to San Francisco in July to do a show called Low Hanging Fruit about homeless veterans, female veterans living on Skid Row and what their life is like. And I got 2 NAACP Theater Awards recently. So
yeah, that's right.
And I'm in the same category. So
you're against yourself.
I'm competing against
nominated
myself.
for both Low Hanging Fruit and Flying West.
And for Flying West, yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. And there's the usual kid madness.
Yeah.
Birthday parties,
gauntlets,
swim lessons,
and auditions in the meantime, and doing stuff.
Yeah, and expecting the unexpected. We were talking on the way here, and I said a couple of times, and then I had nothing to do, and then this really cool thing happened, Henson last year. So I'd say look forward to nothing to do, because then it makes space for something cool to happen.
That's awesome. Yay.
Okay.
All right.
I'm done with the deep stuff. Let's make money, boys.
Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. If you like the show, I'm going to repeat this in the bumper, but if you like the show, please put a review down there or star it or something. Just express that, share it, let people know that you found an ace you can keep, and we'll be back next week. Thanks so much, you guys. You're awesome. I love my people who come in, and in particular, I love you because you're my wife.
Wow,
and you're
that's
awesome.
Convenient.
Yeah, it makes life a lot easier. This has been All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please go to iTunes and give us a positive rating. It truly helps. Follow me on Twitter at KiffVH, or on Instagram at KiffVH, or on Vero at KiffVH. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Claim victory and depart the field.
Werewolf?
Yeah.